Morning, Friday, May 17th. No, how about Wednesday? How about Wednesday, May 17th? I'm just like skipping along the week. Um, I wanted to continue talking a bit more in the textbook that I've been working with you through. And if we can start with a couple of premises. And I like the word premise versus belief, and simply because we know that beliefs can be empowering or disempowering. And beliefs we can change, even if we felt that a belief was a positive at one time. A belief is a belief is a belief, right? So even a positive belief can, in actuality, keep us stuck. And it doesn't happen very often, in my experience, in my observation. However, it is a possibility. And so I think that's also important. So good beliefs aren't good, and bad beliefs aren't bad. And that just feels weird saying that because, again, all of you know how I feel about good or bad. So there is no such thing as good or bad. But if we can accept the premise that we are part of the infinite being, we are part of God, we have a God mind. We are all connected. We are all one, right? So we're one with the earth, right? We're one with the planets. We're one with nature. We're one with each other. There is no separation from us and divine source energy, or us and our divine intelligence. Again, your words. And what I really like, the verbiage in this particular textbook talks about guidelines for a positive, transcendent attitude. And by adding the word transcendent, it's greater than, in the sense of expansion, again, not in terms of good or bad, but in terms of discernment. It's greater than a positive attitude, because you can pretend to have a positive attitude. Anybody know someone who's like on the outside is like all like, oh, right, my glass is half full, and yet they still have these limiting beliefs that come through, but they would say they have a positive attitude. I think that's those individuals are here on earth just for us to like lean into, to observe, no judgment, but to observe how we can say we're one thing, but we show up a different way. But if we move into something called a positive transcendent attitude, really what we are doing then is accepting there is a transcendent nature to who we are. And or expansion. Use the word expansion if transcendent is something that we don't resonate. So if we, points that they make here are, realize that you damage yourself psychologically, psychically, and spiritually if your attitude is not positive, no matter what negative events or conditions may arise. Psychologically, you damage yourself by accepting failure thoughts. They become part of your subconscious mind. They form failure thought patterns that will not relieve the present situation, but only compound it, leading to further difficulties in the future. Psychically, you damage yourself by failing to maintain a positive attitude, by telepathically radiating out vibrations of failures to others, which in turn attract further conditions of failure and negativity into your life. And this was a profound message for me, to remind me that I'm always sending a signal out, right? There's a frequency that I'm sending out. And the frequency can be one of a positive transcendent attitude, or it can be one of, right, worry, doubt, fear, avoiding failure, avoiding being wrong, needing to be right, concern, all of the lower density vibration, or simple things like it's really hard to build a business. So beliefs. So we're constantly sending out a beacon. And even using the word telepathically is interesting in changing this. We all have telepathic abilities. Some people have flexed that muscle, have used that muscle, but we all can tap into the energy, right? even if you don't even know that's what you're doing. Excuse me. So when we're radiating out vibrations of failures to others. This is why you can create something. Let me see if I can word this correctly. If you've had experiences where you wanted something, desired something, and everything seemed to kind of come to you, the law of attraction has the illusion that if it comes too easily, it's meant to be. And if there's obstacles and challenges, it's not meant to be. And so consider that that's a bullshit, right? That just because it easily comes to you just means that your channel is clear. You could have a negative channel that's clear. So yes, it easily comes to you and it appears to be all of that you desired, which it could be, but it's because it's based in worry, doubt, and fear. Or you can have a transcendent positive attitude, can send it out, and there'll be obstacles that come in your way. So the obstacles don't mean stop what you're doing, but the obstacles, in my personal point of view, and in observing people over the last 10 years, is pause. Just take a pause, take a moment. What's the message that you're to receive in the obstacle? It doesn't mean don't do it. It just means what's the message? So spiritually, through your thoughts, you will damage yourself by putting forth a negative attitude about yourself into the mind of the universe or God, right? There is but one mind flowing throughout all creation in nature. What you think about yourself and life is accepted as so by the universal mind and acted upon accordingly in the creative process of nature. So a positive attitude about yourself and your life can best be formed by accepting a spiritual foundation upon which your self-image rests. And so the spiritual foundation is a positive attitude does not accept defeat, but regroups and adjusts by being open to intuitive self-direction from your higher mind. Again, this is an indication we're not meant to ask our intellect, what should I do? Right? Don't ask the I, what should I do? Because your ego, your id, your I will direct you possibly differently, not all the time, but will direct you from the egoic place, from the id, the I. And that's not a bad thing, right? So be careful with this because it's not good or bad. It just is the isness of it. So if we are facing a challenge or obstacle, the intention is to tap into our higher source, right? So different words, you can use higher source, into our bodies, which is, part of being here on the physical planet. We can utilize tapping into our body. We can tap into spiritual side of ourselves. Again, our intuition. There's no right or wrong word. It's just whatever word you can grasp around it right now. Whatever words you can wrap around right now. So a positive attitude, a transcendent attitude, doesn't accept defeat. A positive transcendent attitude is one that knows that in spite of any apparent difficulty, one's higher God mind will show the way for improvement. And so I think that word is important. Will show the way for improvement. And again, if we're following inspired action, that's what I refer to it as. If we're following inspired action, it doesn't mean we're not going to have the obstacles or challenges. So if it's like a clear sailing and the outcome isn't what we wanted, it wasn't because you did anything wrong. That's a possibility, though, that you followed your ego, your id, like your I, and you manifested that situation from fear. So this is the work. And depending on how strong your personality is, this can be more difficult, right? I personally found this like really difficult, really, really difficult, and sometimes still do. I'm a work in progress, right? But that was the most difficult thing for me to do, was to just surrender into something other than my own personal control. And for many years, I even had the illusion that I was surrendering, and I wasn't. And once in a while it rears its ugly head. Not ugly head. Ooh, in terms of discernment, not in terms of judgment. Well, let me be clear. So a positive transcendent attitude recognizes there's a power at work in one's life that transcends the temporary limitations of time and space within one's negative condition has arisen. No temporary lesser power can stand for long against the ultimate eternal power if one's attitude is an acceptance of such. So my interpretation of this is, if I continue to rely on my intellect, on my personality, my ego, my id, my I, to make decisions, that's where my Groundhog Days come from. And so, and there's nothing wrong with it, again, because there's no good or bad, right or wrong. It's like, oh, there's more opportunity for transcendence there for me. There's more opportunity for me to surrender. There's more opportunity for growth. So releasing the judgment is essential for you to move forward in that, what we're talking about, the positive transcendent attitude. A positive transcendent attitude knows there are certain spiritual laws constantly at work. So in my world, I call those the universal laws, and I use Raymond Hollywell's book as a guidebook for me to clear up any negative conditions. These laws are automatically set into motion by the maintenance of a positive transcendent attitude. A positive transcendent attitude can be enforced through the daily act of meditation. Meditation brings about an inner peace that clears the way for intuition to direct and guide us out of negative situations. In any form of meditation or breath work will work. I don't buy into that there's just one way. Like, there's so many ways to meditate. And start out with 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Work your way up to 25 minutes. There's lots of guided meditations. Joe Dispenza, I really like his guided meditations. That there's tons out there. And the suggestion from this textbook is to meditate twice a day, once in the morning and once at night before you go to bed. That you're open your God mind, right? You open the God mind to help you resolve challenges if you meditate at night. A positive transcendent attitude knows that its identity and purpose in life has meaning because it's being directed by the transcendent God mind within to fulfill the purpose of one's soul this lifetime. So we all have a purpose, right? And if we follow the God mind, right? If we follow our higher power, that purpose will unfold. Now, remember, please, and thank you, caution that your career might not be your purpose. Don't confuse the two. You might use your purpose, right? So I always say, use your business as the vehicle to living the epic life. Use your business as the vehicle to living your life on purpose. So it might not be connected, right? And I think part of what's happened in our world, of being a human species, is we've been misled that what we do for a living needs to be our life purpose, and it doesn't. There's so lots of guidance, lots of text, right? Lots of proof, evidence, conversations that I've been a part of, that I've read, that the multiple of books from multiple different lifetimes, meaning like books from the early 1900s all the way to books from the last year, where that's being talked about now, right? The truth of that comes out. A positive transcendent attitude knows that if there is a temporary financial lack, the spiritual God mind, unlimited in its resources, will direct the personal mind to those resources in physical reality. So this is how important our mind is. If we keep on saying, I don't know what to do here, or I can't figure this out, that's true. Your brain, probably don't know what to do, or you can't figure it out. Otherwise, you would. But if you go into and tap into your higher mind, this connection to divine source, and ask divine to guide you, right? What's next? What's my next step? And then when that happens, what's my next step? What's my next step? Reminding all of us, right, myself included with my health, that it doesn't, there's the plan doesn't come out like in a step one, index 1, index 2, index 3, index 4, then step 2, then all of that. But it unfolds as we're ready. It unfolds as we're ready. So if it's not unfolding, quote unquote, fast enough, then a question to ask is, asking your higher divine self is, show me what I require to be ready to receive the next step. Show me what I require to be ready to receive the next step. And then the next step will come. A positive transcendent attitude knows that if love is lacking in your life, the personal mind will intuitively direct it to find life. A positive transcendent attitude may have a momentary reaction to a negative condition or experience. So there's no such thing as perfection, right? But almost immediately begins to retreat by aligning the mind with the power and presence of the universal God of within, right? A positive transcendent attitude does not spend endless time blaming others for negativity, but instead tunes into the source of all wisdom within for guidance in correcting any negative situation involving others. A positive transcendent attitude knows that life is not what we make it, like the personal mind, but what our God mind working through us can create. So my questions I'm being guided to ask all of you is, what parts of those that I read did you resonate with the most? So just kind of making a mental note. And what parts of it, if any, are you in resistance to? So where are you in resistance? And what's the truth in the resistance? Lots of times I've asked, what's the truth in this, meaning the truth in your experience. Now it's the question of what's the truth in your resistance, meaning there's a reason why you're in resistance. It could be an old story that you're telling yourself. It could be a belief, right? There's the value disconnect, or like a belief, for example, that you have to work hard for money, and then a belief that you don't want to work hard for money. Work hard. That would have been mine, right? My parents saying successful people work hard, and my resistance to wanting to work. I don't want to work hard. Like, that just sounds hard. That just sounds sweaty. Right? I don't want to sweat. And so what does that look like for you? And so really tapping into the resistance of the thing that you're resisting the most. And I sense that there's multiple layers to that. Now, it doesn't mean it's hard, or difficult to get into the layers, but rather you might need somebody truly to ask you the questions. Sometimes we need someone else to ask the questions, okay? So that we can reflect, or we can say it out loud. As a reflector, and how I process by speaking. So there's lots of times I'll just take a voice memo and I'll just start talking. And I'll hear the words that I have a time to process. And then afterwards, I'll listen to it again. And then I'll have another self conversation. So that's one way that I can process if I don't have someone to listen to me. The other piece of that is, when you're choosing the person to work to process with, we're just moving some energy. Thank you. When we're choosing someone to assist us with the processing, what I'm being guided to share with you is to ensure that you express to the person you're not looking for advice. You're not looking for consultation, right? But you're looking to have them maybe ask questions, and you can tell them what questions to ask, right? Or you're looking for an opportunity, a sounding board, right? Don't say anything. I just need you to be a sounding board because I need to hear what I'm saying because it has a vibration to it. You feel the vibration in your body. It moves energy, and then the thought process can come to you. We often, though, my experience has been, most of us need, oh, hang on, I'm going to actually get the answer why. Oh, thank you. English, please. Okay, I hope this makes sense. When you speak to another individual, your vibration of your voice actually bounces off their auric field and comes back. So your voice, right, the vibration of your voice bounces off their auric field. That's the word that it's coming as a symbol, so that's my interpretation of it, off your auric field and coming back to you. That's why we feel better when we talk to people versus sitting in, it's easier to process with another individual. The key, though, this is they're showing me the key. The key is to ensure that you specifically pick someone that won't trigger you. That's the words, that you trust, and that you trust that they're not going to give you advice, because you're not looking for advice. You're looking to interpret the vibration of how you're feeling. Interpret the vibration of how you're feeling. Yeah. Okay. So I hope that makes sense, or at least like sense as in a feeling within you of the importance of having the right person, no judgment, but the right person for you to have a conversation with. And one more message. Hang on. And someone who's not primary concern is your safety and security, right? So someone whose primary concern is not your safety and security, because the message I'm getting is that person will move into protective mode for you and want to fix things for you, want to make it better for you. And there's nothing to be fixed, right? You're not fucked up, you're not broken, right? So you're just looking for that person to it's literally a sounding board. You're looking for someone to be that sounding board. Right? All right. So one of the opportunities that we have now in this textbook, this is from my minister's bachelor's degree. That's the textbook I'm talking about. There's a positive transcendent attitude visualization treatment. And what's really interesting is that they talk about treatments, like as the actions that we can take. It's a treatment. So whether you resonate with that or not, if you don't, you know how I feel, remove that. Someone's like not happy with the word treatment. So yeah, don't use it then. It's okay. So daily, as you engage in your affairs, stop and take the time to reflect for a moment that your inner body is filled with the infinite mind of God as an infinite light within your body, and at the same time glowing forth around your body. So for me, this visualization looks like it means a flame, right? It starts in my heart and then expands out, 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 right? And so in their verbiage, this is referred to by mystics as living in the light as one goes through. So we're living in the light. So part of a positive transcendent attitude is the opportunity that we have to live in the light. And eventually its reality is seen in meditation, coming forth in part as a result of visualizing in this manner. And then it doesn't take long. It can take seconds, right? It takes seconds to do it. And so you can decide if that resonates with you. Oh, excuse me. All right, I'm just going to pause the recording. Does someone have something that they'd like to share? As I